All right, welcome back to Coffee with Doc. I'm representing our newest swag, our Hydrated Ageless Forever AF. So if you're wanting one of these cool thermoses, I guess, steel inside, so they're all metal, come on down to Ageless and pick one up. We've also got some really cool t-shirts that we have. And for our patients, the cost is $0. So come on in, pick up some swag. But I got some news hot off the presses that I wanted to share with you guys. Put this together a little earlier today, so I'm going to have to refer to the paper a little bit. But there's some news coming up in July regarding peptides. And I always have people asking me, what are peptides? What about peptides? So I wanted to kind of cover this and see if I can make some sense of what's coming on for healthcare practitioners and for those of you that want to obtain your peptides from a legitimate source, not through the gray market, and then risk what you're putting in that might not be pure, it might not be sterile, it might not even be the product that you ordered. So let me kind of delve right into this. So I titled this Tiny Change, Big Changes, what the FDA's latest actions mean for peptide compounding. And so basically, there's a lot of confusion in the peptide world today. If you're a clinician, a patient exploring advanced therapies, or anyone involved in compounding or functional medicine, you've likely recently heard some headlines suggesting that access to certain peptides is opening back up. But the reality is it's much more nuanced than that, more uncertain than it appears. Today, we're going to break it down clearly, what the FDA actually did, what it does not mean, and what you should be doing right now. So what just happened? This happened a little bit ago, but the key development, the FDA has announced that it will convene the Pharmacy Compounding Advisory Committee on July 23rd and 24th. So literally a month from a day ago. So we're basically 29, 30 days out from this group getting together to talk about these peptides. At this meeting, they're going to review 7 peptides for potential inclusion on the 503A bulks list. These include BPC 157, KPV, TB 500, MOTS-C, DSIP, that's the deep sleep inducing peptide, CMAX, and Epitalon. Now, why does that matter? Because if a substance is added to the 503 bulks list, it means the FDA has formally determined that it can be used in compounding under federal law, assuming all other requirements are met. But this is crucial. We're not there yet. We have to wait for this meeting next month. The confusion. The FDA, at the same time, made another move that has created a lot of misunderstanding. They announced that these same 7 peptides would be removed from what is called the Category 2 of the 503A framework. So what they initially did is they took 19 peptides and put them on this Category 2 list, which basically took them away from the purview of compounding pharmacies and developed, really helped to bolster this gray market online community of everybody now is a peptide producer, a peptide seller. Everybody is an expert in peptides. And, unfortunately, most have zero training. They're learning it, through guesswork. And they're able to produce these peptides. And they're put there for research purposes only. The bottles say not for human or animal use. What are you supposed to use them for? Are you using them? Are you trying to see how BPC works in bacterium? You got a microscope and you're doing that? No, they know that you're going to be using this. That is their safeguard. So when they give you something and you get an infection, you get sick, something bad happens, they can put their hands up in the air and go, well, they did that on their own. Our product was purely and intentionally labeled for research purposes only. There's nothing you can do to us. That's number one. Number two, These people are not regulated by any state or federal oversight. So they're not doctors, so they don't have a medical board overlooking them. They're not pharmacists, they don't have the pharmacy overlooking them. They're not producing FDA products, so the FDA doesn't look over them. So there's no governing agency. They can put anything they want in there. Now, you'd like to think that they're doing the right things, but hey, listen, it's not a stretch. There's people out there buying illicit drugs off the street thinking that they're buying one thing and they're overdosing on fentanyl. You know, what's to say that one of these folks doesn't get their supply through an illicit place? And most of these supplies are coming from China. There's theory that China is supplying Mexico with a bunch of fentanyl. I'll let you do the math. I'm not, it's not a conspiracy theory, but it's a thought. And once you inject it, it's in there. You're not getting it out. So sorry to go off on a tangent, but these are things to consider. And so when they remove them from the category 2, that made things a little confusing because now they're neither category 1 or category 2. They're in this gray area. So the FDA uses category 1, 2, and 3 as a temporary holding system while deciding whether substances should be allowed for compounding. Category 1, as we discussed, under review, potentially acceptable. Category 2, safety concerns raised. Category 3, insufficient data. So historically, peptides like these were placed in category 2 because of concerns around safety, lack of human data, potential impurities, and complexity in manufacturing. So naturally, when people saw these substances being removed from category 2, the assumption was, great, this must mean we can compound them again. But that is not correct. What this does not mean, and let me be very clear, removal from category 2 does not equal approval. It does not put these peptides into category 1. That's what the meeting is for in July. Add them to the 503A bulks list, which again, that's what the meeting is for in July, or grant enforcement discretion from the FDA. This is why they're having that meeting. So they're kind of in limbo right now, waiting to see which direction this is going to go. So in other words, there's currently no green light for compounding these peptides under federal law. The FDA has explicitly stated that these actions should not be interpreted as authorization. So what we're really left with is something I often describe to my patients and colleagues as a regulatory gray zone. And it's just kind of like the gray market that's out there. It's unregulated, but so the next piece I want to kind of cover on this is like the political signals versus regulatory reality. So part of the confusion also comes from broader political messaging. Around the same time, the HHS Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., made public statements suggesting that this shift would help restore regulated access and move patients away from the black-gray market. That message has understandably created optimism. We have to separate political intent from regulatory reality. Because right now, from a compliance standpoint, the regulatory framework has not yet caught up with that vision. To understand why the FDA is being cautious, you have to appreciate the FDA's concerns. Peptides are biologically active molecules. They're not simple compounds. The risks include, but are not limited to, immune reactions, variability between batches, sourcing, contamination or impurities, and a lack of large-scale human safety data. Most of these peptides have been studied in animals, very few in humans, so a lot of the data has been extrapolated from animals. Now, the other side of that is there's a ton of anecdotal evidence because human beings have been using these now for 10 plus years. We're not seeing people drop dead. So I'm not saying these things are dangerous. There is a potential for them to be dangerous, not because of the peptide itself, but in the way it's prepared and presented to the individual. So when you're compounding, especially from bulk substances, the FDA wants to ensure traceability, manufacturing consistency and verified quality. That's why they're taking a deliberate step-by-step approach. It's all really for our safety. And a lot of things the FDA does makes me scratch my head, but this one, I'm a little bit more at ease with, because again, we're looking at a kind of brand new area of medicine. 10 years is not a long time. And it's not only 10 years isn't a long time, it's a whole class that's being introduced. This whole term peptides, it's all over the place. And so some of these have already moved into patented pharmaceutical market, right? And as soon as they hit the purview of big pharma, boy, the prices seem to go right through the roof, like on the order of 10 to 20 times more than what it was coming from a compounding pharmacy for. So that there's something to be said about that as well. So what does this mean for clinicians and pharmacies? What should you actually do with this information? The practical takeaway. Recognize the uncertainty. These peptides are not formally allowed under 503A at this time. Be extremely cautious with sourcing. Research grade or for research use only products carry significant regulatory and, frankly, clinical risk. Monitoring the upcoming PCAC meeting. This July meeting is going to be critical in determining the future direction for peptides, especially these 7. Consider participating in the process. There's an opportunity to submit comments and clinical data that could influence these decisions. Deadlines are July 9th for inclusion in the committee materials, July 22nd for the general FDA consideration. The bigger picture, stepping back. What we're seeing is something bigger than just peptides. What we're watching is a tension between innovation and regulation. On one side, patients and clinicians are pushing for access to cutting-edge therapies. On the other side, a regulatory system designed to prioritize safety and standardization. Peptides, especially the longevity and optimization space, are sitting right at that intersection. So if you're hearing the buzz that peptides are back, I would encourage you to pause and take a more informed view. We are not yet at authorization. We are not yet at enforcement discretion. We are in a period of active evaluation and uncertainty. This is important. We're also likely at the beginning of a meaningful shift in how these therapies are evaluated and potentially integrated into clinical practice. As always in medicine, those who stay informed and act responsibly will be the best position moving forward. Thanks for listening. If you found this helpful, please like and share with anybody that you think could benefit from this. And I welcome your comments. So again, this is kind of more to update you on what's coming. I hope to do a follow-up to this once we find out what's going on after the 24th of July. I was mistaken. I thought it was the 24th of this month. That's what sent me on the tangent to find out what they said. Then I kind of come across this information. I thought, well, let me do a preemptive podcast to give you folks an idea of what's to come, and then we'll cover the issues when they come back to us in July. And the other reason for me was I was interested in what peptides they were talking about because I wasn't quite sure, and I was hoping it was some of the growth hormone releasing hormones and releasing peptides. Unfortunately, none of those are on the list. So that hopefully will come at a later date once more information is gathered off of those guys. But we still have the availability of tesmorelin and sermorelin. So sermorelin will help with the production of your endogenous growth hormone, and tesmorelin, this peptide is really focused on the reduction in visceral fat. And that's the fat that you can't pinch. So that's not the subcutaneous fat that you can pinch around your midsection. That's the fat that's around the organs. And that's the inflammatory fat that creates so much issue with many other diseases. So that's something to consider, especially if you come here and you do a DEXA scan and you find that you have a large amount of visceral fat. Tesmorelin is something that we we'll be able to give here in the near future. We talked to one of our compounding pharmacies, and they're getting ready to release that, and that will help a lot of our patients. So again, thank you for your time.